On the go? Download the free andrewhogue.com iPhone and Android app, so we'll never be apart. This is andrewhogue.com, still Australia's only 24/7 metal radio station, and it's always a pleasure to get on the airwaves this great man, Mr. Jeff Walker from the mighty Carcass, who are back very shortly with a brand new album, the 7th studio album called Torn Arteries, and I'm happy to report that it's a cracking record, and Jeff's here to talk to us all about it and everything else that's been happening in his current world, which is probably similar to all of ours as well. How you doing, Jeff? Welcome to the show.
Yeah. Good evening, good afternoon, whatever time it is. I thought we'd started the interview.
Oh, we did. We talked a bit about health.
Said all the interesting stuff already.
Yeah, I think we probably have,
I'm
mate.
Good. I'm good.
That's the thing. Do people want to know about the life and the diet of Jeff Walker versus the brutal riffs that you propel?
It's probably more interesting. It's probably more interesting than the record, in all fairness.
Well, how do you feel about the album now? Like you said, it's coming out in a couple of weeks, and 10 tracks, which is great because some bands put out 18 songs, and you're like, ooh, this doesn't get boring at all. And it clocks in around just under 50 minutes, which I think is a perfect time for, again, when we look at the attention spans of people today, including mine, it really just slots in well. I like the record. How do you feel about it now?
Indifference. It's it's pretty old. It's hard to get excited about an album that's nearly 2 years old now. Happy that is out there, Yeah, I mean, you're right about the length. We deliberately set out to, make an album of the length that will not test people's patiences. We did record more songs, but, didn't put them on the record. So, we tried to make a mixed, balanced album, Well, there's going to be complaints. There's going to be some pushback because, I think the album's varied enough, It's got enough waves and troughs. It's not like just one flat line all the way through of aggression or whatever. So,
well, that's what...
it's going to be hard to please some people, and it's going to be, it's a case of you can't please all the people all the time. So, we just try to make a solid listening experience, But as you know yourself, most people don't have the time or the inclinations to sit down anymore and listen to an album all the way through. So, we'll see.
Well, you did mention about not pleasing, you can't please everybody. And I realise, especially in the early years of the band's evolution, that, you'd be used to that by now, especially when the band's sound started to change around necroticism. And then, of course, the Mighty Heartwork came in, and then Swan Song. People were just like, what's happening? But again, like I said, bands have to evolve. Bands and musicians grow as people as well. And that's just the way it sort of rolls. Now, you mentioned it's been sort of completed for about 2 years, and I know a few bands have had albums kind of shelved for around that time. So was it just completed before the avalanche of COVID had hit?
Yeah, it was scheduled to come out that year. I don't know if you remember, we were meant to play
Download
Australia, and that was going to be kind of, we figured the album would have been out for that time, but of course not. I think it would have been out later in the summer, but as you know, we were literally 3 days away from catching our flight to Australia. So, we could have been stuck in Australia, all this time. So, basically the label gave us the option because, as you can imagine, all the pressing plants started to close in Europe. And there's only a few left on the planet anyway, that press vinyl. So they gave us a choice, do you want the album to be released? And if it comes out, it would be digital only, or do you want to wait? And with hindsight, maybe we should have released it because I figured, this thing will pass over in a few months,
Yeah, we all thought that.
Well, here we are 2 years later. So, it's a case of getting it out now because we might be still in the same position in a year from now. Who knows? So.
Well, that's a really hard... Yeah, I remember I spoke to Chuck Billy from Testament last year, and they'd put out a record right around the time that they were coming to Download with you guys as well. And again, that's a record that could be somewhat overlooked now because a lot of us are all caught in a change in psychology and lifestyle to a degree. And I think, like I said, some people don't have the time or the mindset at the moment to be either enjoying what they once loved because they've lost their job or, they're in sort of uncertainty. So it made me sort of think
I have heard that some bands have released albums like Black Dahlia and they've had it's been very successful and a lot of sales and stuff. But I think all bands really, you need to tour to just kind of keep the word out there. I still meet people to this day that don't realise that Carcass had an album out 7 years ago. So not everyone is as clued in or on top of things as you'd imagine.
Yeah. But speaking of these current times and being a musician and having very little government support, I mean, how have you coped, and what's been the coping mechanism of Mr. Jeff Walker and the morale in the camp of Carcass during this time? Because again, it's railroaded your livelihood like countless thousands of other people across the globe.
Yeah, well, we're kind of lucky that we had some reserves in the bank, and so we could survive that way, because it's not a case of we sort of just give up. I would give everyone the money immediately. I'm a bit of a squirrel. I always make sure there's money in the bank to see us through hard times. I mean, and luckily it was enough to tide us over for this period. But as far as me getting by personally, I mean, I've just been looking for the small joys in life. The kind of small things that locally or whatever that you just, because I'm so used to living a jet set in life and having exciting times traveling the world and playing gigs, so it's one extreme to another. I'm just looking for small things to keep me happy and finding solace in the smallest things. So I guess I was telling you, I've been walking and cycling a lot more, and there's a lot of stuff locally, a lot of local history that I've never noticed before, a lot of old railway tracks and lines and really boring stuff, middle-aged stuff like that I've kind of got interested in. So it's just small. That's all I can say, really, just small things. Yeah, I mean, I've enjoyed the hiatus, to be honest. I've enjoyed the time away because, like I said to you, we were going to fly to Australia and do this download thing. And if this hadn't come along, we would have continued as normal. And we've been touring for 7 years without a break. And I think it's healthy to have it's been healthy to step back and have a break. But I'd also say it's been a bit detrimental because we haven't played together for 18 months now, so we're going to be incredibly rusty if we ever get to play again. So
well, I've heard similar things from other bands that have talked about the fact that it's kind of been a bit of a reset for them because they've they're never home, and now they're home. It's like, well, I've finally had that chance to fix the garden shed or do something that they've just been putting off because of lack of time. And it's like I said, it's a forced acceptance of this is the situation you're in and you got to make the best of it. But also, like I said, I think a lot of goods come out of it for some people. Absolutely. I think it's just how you approach it with your mindset as well. How are the rest of the lads in the group going as far as, the circumstances and stuff?
I think Dan Wilding's probably crawling off the wall because he's married with kids. So, And I think Bill's fine. Bill's probably just sat down the pub as usual. So, yeah, everyone's fine. No one's cracking up. No one's crying about mental health issues or anything. So, maybe we're all glad to have some time apart from each other. I don't know. Joking. I mean, yeah, it's been positive, but now it's starting to drag a bit. Now the novelty's wearing off. Because we've just had to cancel a European tour, which would have been great timing for promotion for the album. So, yeah, I mean, there's no real end in sight for me. I want to see things happen before I commit Carcass to anything, really. I mean, we have confirmed a gig that we're going to play in November in the UK, but as far as touring is concerned, I still see people booking tours and they still get cancelled, and I think it's a bit kind of crappy to give false hope to people.
Yeah. I mean, the US, everyone else seems to be out there doing their thing. Guns N' Roses are still playing stadiums, and by the looks of it, there's 50,000 people without wearing masks.
How many tours have you seen that have been cancelled the weekend because someone's caught COVID?
Yeah, there's been quite a lot. So, what's your view on I guess the way of the world post COVID, if there's going to be that? There's a lot of people's psychology is going to be really screwed up from this. I mean, if anything, it kind of already is happening. What's your view of stepping back out there? I know that I knew a friend that did some shows last weekend in the US and said it felt really weird, and it's, I guess it's down to how do you view it? So are you expecting just to sort of just get back out there and it's a sort of the same kind of approach?
Yeah, because I mean, we were meant to do this European tour and then we were looking at booking our own European tour for March next year. But my feeling is, come the winter, it's a bit risky. We've got to see what the spike's going to be like. And not just COVID, things like flu and other minor diseases that normally wouldn't, pester people. There's going to be a lot of germs flying around because people have been isolating and staying away from each other. So
you're right.
For me personally, I think March next year for Europe is still a bit too early. So what I see is us hopefully the festivals will go ahead, so we can ease our way back into it by playing festivals, you know, and then before we commit to a tour or whatever. So, I mean, to be honest, in the UK now, you would think COVID didn't exist. I mean, all restrictions have been lifted. I think this country now is just going for herd immunity. You know, enough people have been vaccinated. I mean, but the truth is, you know, being vaccinated is not going to stop you getting the damn thing. I mean,
Absolutely.
I had it the other week, and I'm double vaccinated. It just basically takes the edge off getting ill, you know. So I think the UK is in a. I'm saying this, and next month the shit will hit the fan. But the UK feels like it's in a good position at the moment because life feels pretty much back to normal, in all honesty. So we just need for the rest of Europe and the States and Australia to catch up, you know. I mean, we've got a problem that we can't get into America, regardless, as you probably know. So
we can't go anywhere.
Travel,
We're totally a prisoner island. We've become exactly how we were discovered, you know. Dump the convicts and never to be escaped, you know. It's crazy times.
Yeah.
So again, Torn Arteries being the band's 7th studio record, how do you compare this to the previous works of Carcass when you look back at your amazing body of work?
I mean, the way I see this album is, it's not. I would be honest, because I'm tired of bands saying this is our best album. You know what I mean? That kind of usual self-promoting bullshit. I think it's a very strong album, and I think if you like Surgical Steel, you should like this one. I'm not going to tell you that this is the best Carcass album, because obviously that's down to personal taste. But it's definitely not the worst album. So it depends where you fall into and what you like in our discography. I mean, if you like Symphonies and Reek, I don't think you're going to like this album. But I definitely think post Necroticism, it slots in quite well. It's definitely stronger album than Swan Song. So yeah, I mean, you know, it's a good solid Carcass album. If you're a Carcass fan, you should like this album. But don't go expecting, you know, a return to grindcore or anything. I mean, you know, so yeah.
I mean, we look back at those years, and I mean, you know, the band was a pioneer of that sound, and now again, there's so many subgenres that have been born out of that. Do you keep up with any of that sort of stuff? Do you listen to the latest gore grind band from Poland?
Nah, not really. Once in a while, I'll come across it. You know, come across something, check it out, or hear something live. But it's hard to get enthusiastic about something that you were enthusiastic about 35 years ago. You know what I mean? It's like your life changes and your taste change. So I guess we're in our own little bubble, doing our own thing. So I mean, I don't know. It's hard to be objective. I mean, I was watching something on YouTube last night, and it was the Blaze Bayley years of Iron Maiden, and it actually sounded better than I remember. So
the X Factor.
You know, it's funny how things change, you know.
Well, that's what I remember. We had a chat at the Loud Park, and you mentioned about you're in the middle of the Metallica era. You like Saint Anger, but you also like, you know, Master of Puppets. You kind of got a good sort of balance of, you know, the different sort of, I guess, changes that the band went through as well. So what would be your favorite era of Carcass, just as a fan? Just, you know, if you can stand back, forget that you're actually in the group and just go.
I would say Symphonies. I'd say the old stuff, really.
Yeah.
I think it was a bit more kind of cutting edge and a bit more exciting. I mean, the new album that we've done, there's a lot of hard rock influences, as much as, you know, extreme metal. I mean, we've still got blast beats and Slayer speed stuff and D beats on the album, but I think it's definitely, at the end of the day, we wrote a record to please ourselves, and, you know, me and Bill are in our early 50s, so, you know, at the end of the day, it's like, you know, we're not trying to please 18-year-olds who are into gent or, like, you know, breakdowns and just blast beats, you know what I mean? So I guess we've written an album for anyone who's taken the same musical journey that we have since the late 80s, you know?
Well, like I said, there's just so many different subgenres today in the world of heavy rock and metal. It's almost impossible to keep up. So, again, I'm just grateful that Carcass is still active and still releasing really, really good music. So I really, really dig the record. I know we haven't got you for too long, Jeff. So we can get you to choose your favourite song from the Torn Arteries album and just one of your favourite songs from the earlier years. Just something that you sit there and go, that was a really good song.
Yeah, I think for the olden days, I would say Exhume to Consume, but the version from the Grind Crusher compilation. It'll be on the Wake Up and Smell the Carcass compilation, I think. I mean, that's like, yeah, I just love that version of that song. And I think for a track off Torn Arteries, then why not Flesh Ripping Sonic Torment for a laugh, because it's so long, and also we'll get more publishing money as well.
Alrighty, it's been a blast, pardon the pun, to chat with you, Jeff. And again, look after yourself, and hopefully, yeah, fingers crossed, we get through whatever we can get, when we can ever get through this, which we will. This too shall pass.
I'm sure I'll bump into you in Japan before Australia at some point.
Oh, that's if we can get out of here. That's my plan, unless you can somehow send the Carcass private jet to Stealth and pick me up to get us out of here, because this really does feel like a prison at this point. It's pretty crazy, but hey, it will pass. And hopefully we'll get a chance to see the band live and also hear a lot of these new great songs from the new album, Torn Arteries. So it's always a pleasure, Mr. Walker.
Well, thanks, Andy, and have a happy birthday again.
Thank you very much. And let's check out some Carcass right here on andrewhogue.com.
All right, cheers.